Good morning, everyone. The market is getting smacked this morning. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Welcome, Mike, Russ, Quentin, Hunter, Corbin. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have a lot to talk about. So, like I said, the market's getting smacked right now. The SPY is all the way back below $430 each. It's looking a little rough. It fell from all-time highs really of 434 all the way down to 428. We have a lot of stocks reversing right now. Even one of my favorite stocks, Zoom, is getting smacked this morning. Part of it is due to like bad jobless claims data, but another part is the market has just been exploding overall. So we're just kind of seeing like a mix of just normal selling pressure, but also like some of that more volatile, like catalyst driven selling pressure. So just keep that in mind. We have Zoom down 3%. It's definitely not looking like the best morning.
Yeah, definitely not. We have the QQQ running down today as well, looking like it really sold off, going from 361 all the way down to 355s at the lows. The good news is that we are seeing some green initially here at open. So maybe the market will stage a little bit of a comeback today. And I would kind of expect it to pull back up a little bit, especially whenever we see a big downwards move like that in pre market. We normally see some chop come out of that. So don't be surprised if we see that. But the Chinese stocks are also still getting killed today. Baba's down right around $200, and I'm honestly really curious to see if Baba can hold this level today.
Absolutely. And then we have Sean coming in here. He actually read my mind. He said, "Morning, Mike and Tom. Sorry to see Hunter go broke. So glad I bought puts on Nvidia. He had a feeling, and he's up $800 from it. So awesome job, Sean. You've been on fire when it comes to Nvidia. You rode the trend up so well, and now it looks like you're banking off it falling. And I actually really like the setup. Tom, let's check out a daily chart on this thing. Like, it looks so overextended. And in the past, when you look at, when it got overextended like this, it really pulls back. There have been multiple times where it has significant pullbacks. So, Sean, I love the play, and I think it has even more potential to fall, especially if the market keeps moving the way it is.
Yeah, and I really like how Sean adapted to the market there and understood that it was getting a little overextended and that he should probably switch to puts because that was amazing. Made money going up. Now he's making it going down. So good job adapting to the market there. And I really liked NVIDIA off of this trend line right here. I thought it was perfect and it actually got pretty close to that and then went right down. So I'm glad to see it moving down off the technical as well. And I think we could see this possibly for a couple more days. Not saying it's going to keep going down today necessarily, but I think like over the next like 5 trading days, we might see more red than green.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think we all know that Nvidia options can be a little expensive. So initially I was looking for like call credit spreads on them, but if we want to get aggressive, we can go with like the put debits. So either way, I'll definitely have it on my radar. Let's see. We have Quentin saying terrible day for people holding calls for July 9th expiration. Yeah, that'd be pretty brutal. Those weekly calls or even puts can be really tough. That time decay can really screw you over. So I'm with you for sure. Hunter saying, "Morning, Mike and Tom. Turns out I'm poor now. If anyone in the chat needs their shoes shined, let me know." We'll keep that in mind, Hunter.
Yeah, hey, I need some fireworks picked up out of the yard if you want to come try that.
My gosh. Morning, Vicky. Thanks so much for joining. We have T saying DRV like AMC, but principled about effective. Alrighty. He said DRV. So it doesn't look like the most liquid stock I've ever seen, but let's see. DRV. Yeah, it looks it's kind of getting smacked on the daily chart. To be honest, I don't really follow this one too much.
Yeah, I believe that they were asking about this one yesterday as well. And I was looking at it and I don't know what it is. It's an ETF, it says, and I didn't really look into it too much, but I will say it's not very like there's not very much volume in there. It's not very voluminous. And today it did pop up a little bit, which is nice. But just keep in mind that the movement's not going to be as good as like some of these other stocks that we see. So I think that there's better opportunities, but that doesn't mean DRV isn't going to do well.
For sure. Well, like I said, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Let us know what stocks you like right now, you don't like. And if you guys like the stream, it would help us out so much if you could hit that like button. Like I said, it helps us out so much, and we would really appreciate it. But Tom, I think we should showcase what's happening with some of these cryptos. Like even Bitcoin and Ethereum is selling off a little bit. Bitcoin was down a decent amount. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is not a good thing to see out of Bitcoin, out of the crypto market right now, especially with the overall market going down. Sometimes that drives buyers into crypto. So it's not good to see that going down with the market, but we're actually getting closer and closer to that 30,000 support again on Bitcoin. And I wonder how close we're going to get this time, but definitely looks like we're going down today. And I'm pretty sad to see Bitcoin fall below like that support it had over the past few days, like right around 33,000. It hit off of that quite a few times, and it looked like it was going to maybe bounce there, overnight last night and early, or I should say at the end of the day yesterday, and then all night last night. But then today just continued down early in the morning. So definitely not looking good out of Bitcoin. Let's go check out Ethereum though and see how they're moving. And I'm sure it's about the same. And yeah, they're moving right below that 2160 support and starting to fall down. So definitely not good out of that sector at all. And I'm sure Mara and Riot are getting killed right now.
Yeah, I mean it's been struggling a lot right now. Just cryptos in general. Poor Bitcoin has been basically selling off since April. It's just been pretty tough, but for the long term, I think that it's still in a good spot, and I do like it for the long term. But for the short term, it's there's just a lot of selling pressure, and it's just tough right now.
Yeah, and something that's pretty interesting that I just kind of thought of is it seems like Bitcoin and Tesla started falling like right about at the same exact time. I don't know if that has, obviously there's like not a direct correlation there at all, but well, I guess it was a little later on Tesla, but it looked like on the chart just looking back that they started to go off at around the same time. And I just wonder if that's people just switching over to AMC and kind of getting into that hype. But personally, I think that if we start to see the SPY and the QQQ and the overall market come down hard, like we've been seeing, like it's been making all-time highs and everything, driving buyers back into the market. So I think that if the overall market starts to go down, people might run back into Bitcoin, but I think it'll take a pretty big drop, like the SPY or the Dow. I think might need to fall like 10 to 15% in order for that to happen. And I think that could easily happen, and even if like let's say the Nasdaq or the S&P 500 pulls back 10% on the daily chart, that's still not like we'll still be up a lot over the past year. So it's not like that's the worst move ever.
True that. I mean, looks like just airlines and cruise lines are really getting destroyed. AAL went from 26 down to now below 20. CCL is getting smacked too. 3150 down to 23. It's just looking brutal, Tom. Like it's lots of selling pressure across multiple different industries. And I think what we're gonna ultimately see out of this is I really wouldn't be surprised if we do see tech pull back a little bit. The last time we had just a crazy run up, I want to say that was back in September, or yeah, basically like September you can say. And just a lot of tech stocks pulled back, and it just they're up so much right now. It's just getting kind of crazy. And one of the top stocks I think of when I say overextended is Nvidia. This thing has been on a rocket ship for over the past month now.
Yeah, this has almost been fueling the QQQ over the past month, and this and some of the other semiconductor stocks like AMD. Apple's even into that semiconductor business now with their phones and all the chips that they're making and stuff. So definitely, like that type of sector has been, I think, pushing up the overall market. But definitely, I'm glad to see it starting to pull back now, because I know that we've been waiting for it for quite a while, and we were maybe looking at the 700 resistance, then the 800, and it looks like it got all the way up to 835. But man, definitely crazy to see the pullback going on. And like you said, I could see it going even lower, not Nvidia specifically. Well, I could see them going lower too, but just overall, like for example, Microsoft even has been at all-time highs. We can go look at their max daily. They're pushing up to all-time highs. Apple is getting really close to that all-time high. It looks like it's actually having trouble breaking above that resistance there. So there's definitely a lot of like big stocks at very key levels right now. And if they just fail to break out, then we're definitely going to see a pullback. And especially I think with the QQQ more than any other sector. And, I wonder how the banks are doing, because they've kind of been going down too. And yeah, it looks like banks are doing pretty bad also today.
You know it. All right, we have Spacely saying, "Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the stream, Spacely." We have Mike saying, "Should I consider day trading inverse ETFs such as the UVXY?" So they can definitely be great. Just understand that they can be really hard to trade. Like, if you think you have like a good sense of the charts and can make some money with it, by all means, go for it. But it's a lot easier said than done, especially when the market is getting volatile. So, there's definitely potential, but just know it's not an easy task. We have Hunter saying QFIN. What's going on with this one, Tom? QFIN.
QFIN, let's go check it out. 360 Digitech, definitely not looking good today. Huge volume, a lot of volume actually came in right at open on this sell off. And I'm not sure what kind of news came out with these guys, but man, they are tanking down. They're getting really close to their supports, actually around $21 or $20. So I'm sure Hunter is looking at this one for cash secure puts.
Yeah, I mean, the premiums aren't bad. You can sell like the 20 strike put and you'll get paid almost $60. So it's definitely not bad. I'll actually have it on my radar too. With the next one, we have Justin saying, "Good morning, guys. Keep up all the awesome work. Love watching all your videos. Thank you so much for that." And then he said, "What do you think of BNGO for the short and long term?" So looking at BNGO, we didn't do like a deep dive fundamentally into this company, so we can't give like a fundamental analysis. But technically, they are making higher lows, which is great to see. They really just exploded towards the beginning of the year. They're bouncing up above that $5 support, sitting right around 6 right now. Overall, I like it, but I did not do a fundamental analysis on it. I like the sector it's in, though.
Yeah, I really like the sector it's in, and I looked a little bit into this company, and I will say it has some mixed emotions. I will say by like a lot of the analysts and stuff like that on the on different websites like CNBC, of course, and like investing.com and everything like that. But I do like it for the long term. I think that the sector it's in will start to do a lot better, and I like them. I think that right now this is a pretty good opportunity actually to grab some shares down here while it's lower like this. Or you could sell some puts. The IV is up a lot, not relative to where it's been, but it's still at 117%. But it does look pretty good, I'd say, for the longer term. For the short term, though, anything can happen with this one. And keep in mind that if you do buy this stock and you plan to hold shares on it, it could definitely get pretty volatile. So even if it goes down, I would recommend just holding it for like a few years or something like that. And it should get back up there. But like I said, it's going to be a very volatile, risky hold, and it'll definitely be a high risk, high reward scenario where you can get a ton of profit, but at the same time, you might have to hold through a 50% loss for a few months before that happens.
True that. Looks like we have Apple coming back up a little bit intraday, Tom. We have Facebook kind of holding no, they're not holding their ground. They're selling off a little more, which I wouldn't be surprised if this thing continues down for, maybe a little bit over like the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah, hopefully that can happen. And man, that lawsuit between Trump when Google, Facebook, and Twitter definitely does not sound good for those tech companies. And it's interesting that that's happening while they're all running up. I know Google is like way above all-time highs. Facebook just broke all-time highs a few days ago, and Twitter's been having some problems getting back up to all-time highs, but Twitter's been running up as well, though, even though they're not at those highs yet. So definitely look for a pullback out of some of these stocks. I think that, given that tech stocks have been running and that they have this lawsuit going on and stuff, I think that it'll hurt them in the short term.
All right, with the next comment, we have Russ saying, "Watching AMC to see if that new ruling will take effect. Hedge funds must buy back 2.5 million shares. Today is the 35th day for them." So, yeah, that's very interesting. AMC is getting smacked right now. It's below that $40 support, currently at 39. It's just not looking good, and I hope it goes up for everyone who's holding, but, all of the, everyone calls them apes for buying into AMC, but I'm curious if they will stick to their, their beliefs and if they're going to hold the stock or if they're going to panic sell, because at the end of the day, this stock moves up off of what retail traders do, based off of their sentiment. And by the looks of it, it looks like a lot of people are selling out.
Yeah, I would say so also. I mean, man, like I think you have it very accurate, Mike. a lot of these retail traders are going to see this starting to go down. And, for everyone who's been buying it at like $50, $60, $55, now they're seeing it going down to 40. If it starts to really break this support, I mean, man, they're going to start to get really worried, and I would be worried too. So I don't blame them, but definitely, that like a lot of those people are going to end up selling out, and I think a few of them will end up holding it, and holding out, like the plan was, I guess. But whenever you just look at this going forward, I mean, you just have to see that a lot of people are starting to get out of it right now, and we're seeing it get down to these support levels and stuff, and it's just breaking right through them. Today, we're already down to $38 below that $40 support. So not looking good right now. I would say, Mike, I'm with you. I think a lot of those retail traders are honestly starting to get out. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to pump this thing back up anymore with the way it's going, but I think maybe in the future we will, but not right now. It just looks like that we're definitely in a downtrend. And keep in mind, we broke with this triangle right here a couple days ago, like 4 days ago, finally fell out below that. And guys, definitely look at these technicals, because sometimes they really end up playing out the way that they should. And whenever they move out of wedges and triangles like this, this type of movement ends up happening. Especially if you notice that after the first couple days, you could have had a pretty good put opportunity.
Even like BABA is still selling off. It's getting a lot of selling pressure this morning.
Wow, below 200 now.
Yeah, it's getting smacked. Vicky's asking about Peloton. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, Peloton, PTON, definitely going down today. They had that little run up yesterday, which was awesome to see. And I thought they might continue up, but I'll be honest, Vicky, just the overall market coming down pulled down Peloton. So I'm just going to be neutral on them, because I do think that they can start to recover back up. But with the overall market going down, it's just going to keep dragging them, I think, down. And like I said, though, I think that they have a lot of strength. So I don't think that they're going to get, like slung through the mud and come down to $80 or anything like that. But I think that they might be able to come down to the support, maybe around 100 or around 110.
All right. With the next comment, give me 1 second. The next comment, we have Jay saying, great Facebook play, Tom. 30% gain. There we go. Yeah, Facebook was pretty solid, Tom. Hunter said, my long-term stocks are barely down. Now I'm no longer poor. Thank the sweet Lord I did not have any short or medium expiration calls. Well, yeah, thankfully. But yeah, those long-term stocks, ultimately, when they fall or like tank like this, it's just an opportunity to buy more. So, if you like Palantir, DraftKings, Zoom, Enphase, Redfin, Neo, like when they fall, if you like the setup, doesn't hurt to buy more.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting to see. Like Palantir is actually having a pretty good recovery at open. I mean, it did start to come back down a little bit over the past 5 minutes, but I will say off of that bottom of $22, that seemed like to start the day. And I wonder if we can kind of continue up with some of these growth stocks. Like even though the overall market might start going down, we're seeing these growth stocks start to really fly up.
All right. With the next comment, we have Alex saying, good morning, Mike and Tom and everyone. First time joining the live show. The market looks terrible. Glad I picked up Facebook puts too. Yeah, the market's looking pretty rough today. Lots of selling pressure. I just can't believe the movement on like some of these China stocks, Tom. BABA is getting absolutely smacked. Like it's just selling off horribly. What are like some of the next levels? Like I know we're now technically below this 200 support level, and it's just selling off like more and more every minute.
Man, we're going so low that I have to go to the Max Weekly just to go back a few years to see some of these supports down here. But man, this is not good out of these Chinese stocks. And, China does this from time to time. And I wonder if they're like angry with us for something or something's going on. But definitely look for support, I'd say, right around the 195, maybe 194 area. That seems like a very good spot. We are pretty close to that right now, and it will probably break that just given what we're looking at as of this moment. But I will say, look for support around 194, 195. I think that we'll see a pretty decent move right off of those levels. But it's just going to depend though on like what ends up happening, because who knows, anything could turn around with this. But I think I see it going even lower in the short term.
All right, so then we have Vicky asking about Oracle, and this is basically the only green stock I've seen today, Tom. It's in the green by 0.14%. It's holding up there. Had a pretty good open, actually, but it looks really weak, to be honest with you. It looks very, very weak. IV's rising. It's barely green. I don't like the setup for calls. If anything, I'd like it for puts.
Yeah, me too. I like it for puts too, and I like how it moved up today though with the market. That gives me some hope with it. But with everything going down, specifically the tech stocks, I think Oracle could definitely pull back. But if we do end up breaking the all-time high at 87.17, maybe just ride that momentum up. But definitely I'm looking at it for puts too, especially if we can't break that high. And just keep in mind, we're like we saw that big sell-off today at open. We started to see some downwards movement yesterday out of these indices. So just keep in mind that a lot of volatility will or might come into these tech stocks. So if Oracle, even though it's up and it moved well today at open, that doesn't mean that tomorrow it won't be down.
All right, then we have Click saying AMD recovered. It's trying. It had a horrible gap down and it's moving up a little bit right now, but it's still down around 1.7% today. So, it's good to see at least it's trying, but there's definitely not a ton of momentum there. Just looks like there's just a lot of selling pressure overall, and it's looking pretty scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. And the good news is that AMD like bounced right off of that 1000 SMA right around like 87.25. And it looks pretty good off of that level today at open. But like you said, still looking at it to the downside. Just because we saw a little pop back up today at open doesn't mean that these stocks still can't go down. Like we see a lot of the times, like with these bigger stocks, especially like AMD, Microsoft, Apple, if they have a huge gap down in pre-market, they like to move up like this at open. And I don't know if that's institutions buying up the dips or like NFTs buying up the dips, or I meant HFTs or whatever. But I think that just looking at it today, we might still see downwards movement, and we hit right off of that, like that resistance level right around $90. So I think that might be a pretty good upper level to watch for today.
Alrighty, with the next comment, we have Elementary saying, what do you think about Disney? So I love Disney for like the next couple years or so. I know the market sold off a decent amount today, but I'm not worried about Disney at all. When you're buying these longer term options, you have to like the company's overall movement. Like Disney can fall down to 165 or even lower, and I wouldn't be worried. Even with the Zoom position, for example, with Zoom, let me go to the chart real quick. I know we started entering calls on May 13th, which ended up being the low, which is awesome. But at the time, I liked Zoom shares when they were sitting at 330. And, when they fell down all the way to 275, it's not like I just don't like the setup anymore. So I love Disney for, the next couple years or so. They're a solid company. ARK started buying in. There were a lot of bullish sweeps that came in with Disney. So I'm not really worried about the play at all, to be honest. It could fall lower, but either way, I like it for the next couple years.
Yeah, me too. I like it for the next couple of years as well. You're talking about Zoom, right?
Well, I do like Zoom, but I was specifically talking about Disney.
Oh, Disney. Gotcha. Yeah. I knew we were going through a few of them there, but yeah, Disney, I like it for the next couple of years as well. I think I like it a little bit more than Zoom myself, but I think both companies can do well. And I think Zoom has better growth potential, but Disney looks pretty solid, I'd say. My main concern is just the short term. It looks like it's going to be going down, but like you said, whenever you like them for the long term, it doesn't really matter what happens too much in the short term. So whenever you're looking at this, I think if we could end up holding like the 160 support or something like that, we'll end up being okay for the longer run. And even if we go below that, Disney's going to recover eventually. It's just the question will be, how long do you have to hold those will be the only variable, I should say.
All right, and then we have, let's see, Corbin saying, I am pretty happy with Facebook in shop puts this morning, and interesting stock I am looking at right now is OSTK. What's going on with this one?
Overstock.com. I know that they've been moving pretty bad the past few days, and looks like they did end up going red again. Well, they're actually green, but their daily candle was red. It looks like they're catching some red over the past 15 minutes, not looking good right now. They did pop up a little bit in after hours yesterday, which I guess is why they're still green, but they're right around that $85 support. And I think if they end up breaking that, we could see Overstock.com start to really fall down. And they've been on this recovery and they've been following this red trend line on my chart on the way up. And guys, this might be one of those good technical stocks where you might be able to catch it the second it breaks below there if you chart this one out on your chart. And if it does end up breaking below there, I think we could see a pretty good move, just like we've seen with a lot of other stocks that have done this, kind of like X, for example, where X was riding their trend line going up and finally broke that and had just some solid moves down.
All right. With the next comment, we have us saying the lawsuit has no merit. So I believe he's referring to like the one with Facebook. So yeah, I mean, either way, lawsuits are not good for any company. Then we have Rome saying, good morning. What's going on with Apple? So Apple, I saw it was recovering up. Let me double check it real quick. It's just, there's no momentum. It tried to run up, got rejected pretty hard. I don't like it. It's looking pretty scary, sitting right at the 141 support. Next support is right at 140. 140 is going to be a pretty big level. It bounced off that quite a few times in the past. IV's rising. Definitely looks more bearish than bullish to me.
On Apple, right?
Yep, Apple.
Yeah, and right off of that upper resistance too. I mean, that's the main scary factor with Apple here. And Apple was looking good for like the past few weeks. And just keep in mind, like I know that Mike was even bullish on it for the past like week or two. So definitely adapt to the market and always change. And with that gap down today, it definitely is looking a little scary to say the least, I should say. And man, just Apple, Microsoft, and a lot of these stocks that have been going up, they're almost due for pullback. So I'm not surprised to see this happening right now. But man, just not looking good in the short term. And I would say if we could break below like tomorrow or maybe later today, that 140 level, I think that's going to be a pretty big support. So look for a good move below that. And that might not happen today. Like I said, it might take until tomorrow for that to actually play out, but definitely look at 140.
All right. With the next one, we have a trading desk saying holding the August 20th PayPal 30 call options. What are your thoughts? So let's take a look at PayPal. I said the 30 calls. Overall, PayPal, it's selling off a little bit right now. I'm not sure if you have the 30 straight calls. Those are really deep in the money, but it's kind of just consolidating. Personally, I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like it either. I think it looks like it might start to go down here, especially with the rest of stocks. And keep in mind, it hit right off of that $300 level. So that's a pretty pretty big psychological level in people's minds. And it also hit almost all-time highs right around 300. So definitely look for some downwards movement, I'd say. I would not honestly be too bullish on this until we saw more movement so that I could see, more movement below the 300 support or until we break above that resistance at 300.
Well, here's the thing. So he just said that he has the 330 calls on PayPal for August 20th. The good thing is that he has time, but the bad thing is that he's over 10% out of the money. These options only have a 12% chance of expiring in the money. So, even like let's say PayPal like consolidates for a couple days and then slowly starts the uptrend, the odds of winning on this trade are very low. So the good thing is that the options didn't decay too much just yet. I know they're down like 24% or so since yesterday, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still worth like $240. So they still have some value to them, but it'll just be really hard to profit. It's 330 is pretty far out of the money.
Yeah, especially with that drop today. And I think that big touch off of like 293.50 this morning is going to prove that level is going to be a huge resistance for us also. So definitely be careful with this one. I would definitely look at like changing it up or maybe just looking at other positions to maybe hedge this one might be the way to go. Like we're seeing some of these tech stocks start to go down. So maybe you could like hedge that position in a different way.
True that. We have Russ saying Moderna's popping. Let's check it out. mRNA. I haven't looked at this one in a little while. I know that they were exploding last year, and they're still going. This thing cracked almost 250, but man, this thing it's just been exploding over the past couple years.
And it's still going. Like I honestly would have expected Moderna to slow down a lot, but they're still running up. And I wonder if something to do with that new like COVID,
Variant.
like yeah, the new Delta variant, like that might have something big to do with Moderna and with maybe some of these other vaccine stocks. I wonder how like J&J is looking there. Wow, look at J&J on the daily chart. That's actually a pretty solid setup right there. And Pfizer, I wonder how they're actually looking. They're actually catching green today, not looking as good as J&J or Moderna, but wow, that J&J setup actually looks pretty good. Moderna, I will say, has a huge move today in the morning. And like I said, Mike, I wonder if it has something to do with that new variant coming out. I don't know, but it seems like that new variant has been catching some headlines lately. And, I haven't been paying too much attention to it, but people have apparently been calling for like more shutdowns and more masking and stuff like that. So we'll have to see what ends up playing out with this, especially as we get into some of these colder months where people generally start getting colds and stuff like that. So, people are going to be coughing and stuff, and they might say that that's, that you need to cover up your mouth or whatever. So we'll have to see what ends up coming out, but hopefully they don't impose too much restrictions again.
Very interesting. I've noticed that value stocks are holding up pretty well. A lot of the tech stocks are getting smacked, but like Walmart's up 0.3%. KO's down a little bit. PG is holding its ground pretty well. It's up around 0.2% or so. Starbucks is barely down. So looks like value stocks are definitely holding up the most out of everything today, while tech has just been so overextended. It looks like we might be seeing maybe like a very small rotation into value, but I still think we're a little bit early for it.
Yeah, I think so too. And some of the value stocks I'm personally looking at are like, and don't keep in mind, this is not necessarily a value stock, but Boeing is one of the big ones I'm looking at for the longer term. If this can start to continue to fall, I think we might have some good opportunities there. And I'm also looking pretty good at Triple M again, 3M. I think that this is a pretty good company for the long term. And they're into a whole bunch of different stuff, especially like shipping and receiving stuff, which obviously like UPS and FedEx use a lot, and Amazon and everybody. So I think that 3M will be pretty good for the long run. Personally, this one's probably my favorite long-term stock out of everything, but just looking at all, especially like including the dividend too, I mean, but like them and Disney are almost like my two favorites.
All right. We have Matthew saying everything's crashing. Trading Desk saying China is always angry at us about something. Definitely feels like that. We have Jay saying I caught Moderna watching NVAX. Good stuff there. How's NVAX looking, Tom?
NVAX. I know this one's been talked about quite a bit. Definitely wasn't looking good yesterday, but today it actually turned around and ended up going green, up 2.26%. Even though it gapped down in pre-market, it still had a great move today at open. I don't know if there's a catalyst behind this one or not, but pretty good solid move to the upside, especially with the rest of stuff kind of falling off. So I'm pretty glad to see this one moving the way it is. But I will say, looking at it on the daily chart, even though we're seeing green today, to me, it's still in a downwards trend. So I think we need to like break up above like 220 or 222 or somewhere close to that in order for me to be more bullish on it. But I do like the movement that we're seeing today intraday.
Sounds good. With the next question or next comment, we have Mike saying they're mad Mike closed his Quebs. Yeah, these China stocks have been getting hammered. Queb is down around 3.5% today. Just all these China stocks are getting smacked. It looks like Baba is trying a little bit to recover, but there's just so much selling pressure, and it's still technically below that 200 support. So looking a little rough, definitely. Hunter said the dead bottom of Baba today was the 1000 EMA down to the penny. So that's pretty interesting. Must be some buyers stepping in right at those levels. Hopefully,
Mike, that's actually hilarious. I think you like read my mind because I was like highlighting my red 1000 right as you said those words, which which was hilarious.
oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, looks like buyers are coming in. Hopefully they can hold it up. Then we have Adrian saying Biogen about to moon question mark. So it's BIIB. How's that one doing? BIIB. Let me pull it up. It's looking really good intraday actually. It's exploding intraday.
Yeah, it is. It's actually looking pretty solid, I'd say. Looks like a pretty good move. And I will say, with this company being the company that made that Alzheimer drug a couple months ago, I think that they could still continue to fly up. And man, they had a great move initially off of that news and then started tanking down, which they've done in the past whenever they had good news. So not surprised to see that, but I think that they will start to go up for the longer term, and it might be a good time to start getting in. And it's interesting to see some of these biotech companies like Biogen, Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson catching some solid green candles today while the rest of the market's kind of flat.
Sounds good. Then we have Rome saying, thank you guys. Much respect. Well, thanks for joining the stream, everyone. If you guys could hit that like button, that would really, really help us out. We'd really appreciate it. Then we have Kathy saying, Palantir has gone positive. There we go. Finally, it's going from red to green. Great. We finally get to see some green out of Palantir. It just got demolished over the past week, and I like it for the long term, but they did have a pretty solid recovery over the past couple months.
Yeah, for sure it did. And even though it's been down like the past week, keep in mind it's still up quite a bit from that low. It passed above that $20 resistance level on the way back up. And as long as we hold that, I think that we'll be solid for the next few weeks. And just looking at it today, I love the green candles that we're seeing, and it looks like a very solid recovery. I will say it looks like we're getting close to the 100 SMA, which might pose as a good resistance, especially around that like $23 area, which has been a pretty big level as of yesterday. So definitely look at it. I think we might start to see it consolidate or go down intraday, but we'll just have to see what happens.
All right, we have Corbin saying maybe today would be a good day to sell cash secured puts. My premiums are higher and the stocks moved down a bit already. Although if they continue, you could be forced to buy. That's the name of the game. Sometimes you have to buy, but think about it. The stocks are already moving down. Personally, I like to sell puts when stocks are down because one, you're going to get more premiums. Two, you can go further out of the money. Like I said, IV's higher. And even if you do have to buy, at least you're buying at the lows. And if it's a stock you like for the long term, that's a win-win. So I wouldn't be like scared to possibly be like being forced to buy the shares, but it ultimately all depends on your risk tolerance. But some of these stocks like Palantir are already so low, and you can get some pretty good deals on these cash secured puts. Like it's already at 23. And it was at what, like 27 or 28 a couple days ago. So, let's just say we go to the let's say we go to the August 6th chain. You can sell the 20 put and get paid $40, which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, and whenever I go look at that, Mike, that 20 put is awesome. I think that's right on the support. And the big thing is like a lot of people were loving Palantir on the way up around $23. And you always tell me this, I know. And whenever I'm looking at these stocks, and I want to buy them for the long term, and I liked it up here at 24. Now it's at 22. If I could get paid to buy it at 20, why not do that? So like that's the main reason why I like doing cash secured puts. And I think that's a great idea to do it on Palantir or a couple of other stocks possibly over the next few days. And even if Palantir goes lower, you still have it at $20, which isn't the worst. And that bottom level is at 17. So at most, if it goes down to $8, of course, you'll be in a little bit of trouble. But if you end up getting shares and you like it for the long term and the stock ends up going back up, then you should be okay. And, even if it still goes down, you have to be confident enough and you have to love the stock enough to continue holding it. Because if you get assigned shares and then you sell out for like a quick 20% loss or something, that kind of defeats the purpose of it there. So I think that getting it for the longer term and holding it that way is definitely the smart way to go. And Mike, I'm glad you did that with Palantir because that's honestly a pretty good setup right now for it.
Yep, looks good. We have Hunter saying, someone check hell. Palantir is green. I know it's surprising, right? Like, it's just been getting just demolished over the past week. So it's good to see that. DeMarcus said, how do you find support and resistance? So a quick, simple explanation is you just look for areas or levels where the stock likes to bounce off of. And then if the stock is like, for example, let's say a stock is trading at 25 and it keeps bouncing off of like in the past the $23 level, that would be a support level because it's below its current price. Let's say stock's at 25 and it has a hard time breaking above 30, that would be a resistance. So it's a lot more complicated than that. And there's a lot of different forms of support and resistance. It can just be like, whole dollar levels, like $30 or, $70 or whatever. Or it could also be like moving averages. It could be trend lines. It could be so many different things. Honestly, there's so much great content on YouTube. If you just, search how to find support and resistance, there should be a couple really great videos there for you. We have Russ saying MRNA is really going. How's it looking intraday?
Yeah, looking really good intraday, actually, on the 1 minute, still running up. I will say we're getting close to some resistance up here, like around 230, 250, maybe around 230 where we are right now. There was a pretty big green wick I just saw. I don't know if that's going to show us that there might be a turnaround. It looks like there might be actually on the 1 minute. That was a pretty big wick I saw right there. So we might see some consolidation right now. But as we start to go up today, this 230 level might be pretty big for us. If we break that, though, we might continue back to the upside. Overall, though, great moves out of Moderna and these vaccine stocks. I really like to see it. And looking on the 1 minute, it's been so strong today. Like I said, don't be surprised if it consolidates a little bit and then maybe moves later on or something like that. But definitely having it on my radar. It looks really strong, and you might be able to catch like some quick moves of the upside with it.
All right, we have Sean saying, well, I'm on a day trade, so I'm just going to relax for now. Hope everyone profits this week. Thanks, Mike and Tom, for another great stream. So thank you so much, Sean, and awesome job. You've been killing it lately.
Yeah, you have. Thanks for always showing up, and good trades with NVIDIA, man. Those have been amazing. And like I said, I really admire your adaptability to get those calls and then switch to puts. A lot of people would look at NVIDIA and say, oh, it's going to keep going, hodl. And I'm glad you adapted and kind of switch your strategy. And I think that's good. I think a lot of other traders will look at that and maybe change up some of their strategies too.
All right, we have Click saying Solo is green. SOLO. Let's check it out. SOLO. It is not bad. It's a penny stock. We don't really, or it's under $5, we should say. So it's not a stock for me. Hopefully it pops for you, but it's definitely not for me.
Yeah, me either. And it looks like it's kind of like in a downtrend right now. I think it could have been good, back in like 2020. It was looking pretty decent of moves back off of those supports and stuff like that. But right now it looks like it's in a totally different setup. And it honestly just looks more of like a downwards trend to me, almost like we saw in the past from like 2019 heading into 2020.
All right, and then snow was popping up a good amount. I'm not sure if you saw this one intraday, Tom, but it gapped down pretty bad. But like, check out like a 5-minute chart or something like that. This thing is exploding.
Yeah, this is really moving up. And man, they had that good move yesterday. And I remember bringing this up to you early this morning. I looked at it and was like, wow, Snowflake tanked off because they had that such strong close. And man, it shows that some of these stocks that have strength they're still able to show that. And they pushed all the way up through that high, even though they had that terrible gap down today where they gapped down like 8 points. It opened from 248 down to 240. So awesome movement out of this stock. And, even though it's only up 1%, if we go look at like the low of today and go up to the high, they're up like 5% right now. So that's a pretty big move.
All right. BYND is moving up too. They just went from red to green. This one doesn't look bad either. Let me check out a daily. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's trying to hold that $140 level.
Yeah, it's trying. Beyond Meat might do good in the long term. It might not. A lot of people have mixed opinions on it. I think it might do better in the longer term, but for today, it definitely has had that upwards movement. I will say I have a pretty big resistance plotted right at like 143.50. And keep in mind, that's also right on the 1000 SMA intraday on the 1 minute. So I think we might start to see a pullback soon on it.
All right. SPCE is doing pretty good today. I don't know if you saw that one.
No, I didn't. I wonder, as we head into the end of the week today, end of the week this week, we might start to see SPCE popping up again. And I'll be honest, this looks like a pretty solid setup right off of that 43.16 support. I honestly really like this one. Looks like a pretty solid move. And keep in mind, they had that flight going on July 11th, which is this weekend. So watch out for the live stream and watch out for the hype coming out today and tomorrow, especially tomorrow on Friday. That's going to be a pretty big, I think it'll be a pretty big day for SPCE. So if anyone's a gambler out there and they like SPCE or something like that, I think calls on it might be the way to go. But keep in mind, I would play it heading into the event. I would not hold the calls through the event just in case something went wrong.
All right, answering some of these questions real quick. Let's see. Corbin saying, "Peep OSTK." Tom, check it out. OSTK.
OSTK, let's get on there. Let's see. OSTK, big move up actually. Let's check it out in the 1 minute. Actually hit that $92 level, came right back down, but did start to run up again after we looked at it earlier. And I'm glad to see that it moved like this. And let's check it out on the max daily. Looks pretty good. It looks like it's holding good off of that trend line I was talking about. So as long as we hold this, who knows, we might start to see it pop back up.
All right, and then we have Trading Desk saying, "In your opinion, SPCE to rise Friday in anticipation of Sunday's flight or Monday after, assuming it moves at all." So, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, I personally feel like that we're going to see a pretty big move tomorrow on Friday. And I think that that'll be the way to play it, is to play it on Friday. I don't think Monday will be too big for it. It might, obviously, if the flight goes extremely well. One thing I'm worried about is, I'm not saying that like that the test flight, like that something's going to go wrong and they're going to like crash, or like the plane's going to blow up or anything like that. But on their last test flight, they had to abort it. Not the last one, but the second to the last one, they had to abort it because there was like an engine problem or something like that. So if there is any like difficulties like that, it will send the stock down. So definitely looking at it for it to possibly rise into tomorrow, and we might see a pretty good move. If we see it rise, I could see it maybe heading up to this like 55 resistance, maybe up to like the 54, somewhere really close to that. I really like the setup here today. It looks solid, and that event is it usually brings in a lot of volume and a lot of good upwards momentum into SPCE. And in the past, we can see how much it likes to run, and it definitely ran just a couple weeks ago. So I could easily see that happening, and that's going to be a big event, Mike. I don't know like if you're going to watch it or not, but guys, definitely put it on your radar. I think it'll be a really cool thing to watch on Sunday whenever that finally does launch and go up into space. But like I said, anything could happen. But I will say, if you're someone who normally likes to trade setups like this, it might be a good opportunity to maybe hold some calls. It's just keep in mind, it's going to be very, very risky.
All righty. Looks like just a lot of bleeding today with a lot of different stocks. The only two green stocks on my watch list are Palantir and BLNK. Lots of red though. Square is down the most, with being down around 3.5%, and it's not even at its low of day. It was down a lot more intraday.
Yeah, it was, man. That's down quite a bit. And I'm glad you brought that up with your watch list. And I have a couple on mine that are green, which is interesting. I actually have ACB moving up pretty well, which is the marijuana industry coming back. TLRY also moving up pretty decently, looking like a pretty good recovery today after that gap down. So that sector looks good. I'm also having GLD going green on my watch list, but they are selling off it. GLD is always a crazy one. It follows gold. So really you have to look at /GC if you're going to look at GLD, but overall, like nothing's really moving today. I'm glad Palantir is moving up. Like you said, that looks really nice. We're getting really close to that 100 SMA right now. And I really like the move out of Palantir and some of these growth stocks back to the upside. It's showing their strength today. And I really like it, but there's not a lot of opportunity in the market right now. It doesn't seem like, everything's just kind of coming right back up to like those levels that they were at around open. And it's just definitely a very choppy day so far today. The market gap down. Now we're trying to come back up a little bit, and who knows, we might sell off to end the day. Nobody knows, but the QQQ looks like it's holding its levels pretty good. If it can start to, maybe get another rise back to the upside, we might see a good move. But in the end, it's just going to depend on if these tech stocks can keep going up or not, and they might not. So we'll just have to see how it ends up playing out. But I will say the QQQ intraday looks pretty solid off of that like 356 support.
Yeah, Corbin said he made a lot and lost a lot on GLD. Then we have Jay saying, "Could you check out Roku?" So Tom, this one had a pretty interesting day so far. Opened down quite a bit, and then now it's in the green.
Yeah, really good recovery, just like we're seeing with a lot of these types of stocks. And on the 1 year daily, I didn't even see this before, but Roku came right down to support right around $400. I wonder how close it got to that this morning, right around 402.33. So definitely got close to that good support, and maybe that was a good place to bounce off of. But looks pretty solid, and I would say maybe for the rest of today, we might not see green, but definitely looking at it and eyeing it up for more green movement tomorrow.
All right. And then let's see. We have Corbin saying, what is happening with NEGG? Great stream, guys. I appreciate it. So let's check it out. I was really hoping this one would gap up this morning because I wanted to sell call credit spreads on it, but it's just fading off. It exploded so much yesterday. It was up almost 150%. So just pulling back a little bit. It's hard to sustain that type of movement, like when you go from, what is it, like $10 or $11 all the way up to 79 in a couple days. It's just looks like normal movement to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm surprised that this stock wasn't already up a lot to begin with. They're an e-commerce website. They sell computer parts and stuff like that. So I'm surprised that they were that low to start with, but I'm glad to see that it finally got this type of movement. And like you said, it was looking like a good play, possibly for some type of entry to the downside, whether it be some type of spreads or some puts or something like that. But definitely, whenever stocks have days like they had yesterday, where they run up 140% in one day, just keep in mind that generally there's a pullback over the next couple days. So I'm not surprised to see this movement coming down at all either. And I'm not saying NEGG can't go back up, but the chances of it, I think, are pretty low.
True that. Well, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching?
I'm still just eyeing up Facebook today. It's just sitting down there at the lows, looking at it on the 1 minute, kind of just consolidating actually right below the purple 100 SMA, just failing to break out above that, which is a pretty good sign in the short term. So hopefully we see more downwards movement out of that. Definitely watching the QQQ as well. Like I said, it was looking pretty good off that 356 support. Looks like we're getting some more downwards movement though right now. And if we do see some more selling pressure, we might see a lot of these stocks start to sell off again, which might not be a good thing to see, especially with the overall market, the way it's been looking lately. The SPY on the daily, not looking good. The SPY intraday looking a lot worse, I think, than the QQQ is definitely coming down a little bit harder and just continuing to sell off today. So definitely watching the SPY. I think the VXX might be a pretty good play for the next few days. Yesterday I was looking at the VIX pretty hard. I saw it running up a couple days ago while the market was going up actually. And I thought it was pretty interesting, but I didn't end up playing it at all. And yesterday I was very, very, very tempted to grab some calls on VXX, but I ended up not pulling the trigger. And I wish I would have, but it looks like VXX might catch a lot more upwards momentum, especially with the SPY continuing to sell off. And, we're getting pretty close to that low of day. I think if the SPY breaks below 427, like 35, we'll see a pretty big move down.
All right, last question. Roberto said, is WYNN in a buying opportunity? WYNN. For the long term, I'd say so. For the short term, it looks a little rough. Like, if you wanted to average into shares, it could be decent. But I wouldn't be surprised if it retested like 105 or like 103.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, but I'm with Mike. I like it for the long term. And if you were going to start averaging into shares, I think now might be a good time. But I think just waiting maybe like a couple weeks or just a month you might get a pretty good discount out of it.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining in on today's stream and asking some great questions. Yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you so much to everyone who hit that like button, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.